everybody, it is another month. February went real quick and we are now on to March, and I have this big, beautiful stack of books. I don't know what this, kind of like a Jimmy Stewart. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening. This is my TBR video for March. Let's just get right into it. You guys have heard me. I've talked about this. I made a whole video about this. The Ska-along is starting. Woo woo. So this was a read-along. I have some weird energy today. This started over on Chris Bookish Cauldron's channel, one of my favorite people on BookTube. This is a series by Lynn Flewelling called the Night Runner series. The larger world is called Skala, so that's why it's called the Skala-along, hashtag Skala-along. And this is the first book of that. He actually sent me, Chris actually sent me this in the mail, because he's such a great guy. But you've heard me talk about it before, so from talking with Chris, this is supposed to be a really fun time. The characters are great, the representation is great. It's sort of a skullduggery-like tale, so I'm so excited about it. You should join this if you haven't. We're going to read one book in this series all the way to the end of the year, or in this world. I think this is a 6-book series, and they're all relatively short, again, in the realm of fantasy books. And then there's another series in the world, a prequel series that we'll also be reading. So one a month all the way to the end of 2021. Luck in the Shadows. Join us, Ska-along. I'm really excited about this. Next up, we have Boosh, another read-along, this month's read-along on my Discord channel, which, by the way, invite to my Discord server is always down in the description of my videos. You should definitely come join, talk about books. Almost all of these books have like special places to talk about them on my Discord, or at the very least, you can just talk in the book chat area. So definitely come join my Discord if you haven't. But this is a Tad Williams book. I'm a huge fan of Tad Williams from what I've read. So far, I've only read his Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, but it was tremendous, and I've heard a lot of good things about this. This is a standalone fantasy. I believe it's a portal fantasy where someone is brought into another world. Obviously, that's what portal fantasy means. And there's this war going on that he is accidentally in the middle of. I've personally not read a whole lot about this because I kind of want to go in cold. Like you can tell by what I just said, I don't really know exactly what it's about, but it's a gorgeous cover. It's an author I trust, and I think this is going to be really exciting. So that's there for sure. You'll notice I have a lot of very thick books in March, so we'll see how we do with this TBR. Next up, the next book in the Tawny Man trilogy, Golden Fool. I love this cover. It's so beautiful. These older covers are so much better than the new ones. This continues the story from the first one, which again I can't say much about without spoiling even things like who lives, who dies, who tells your story. So yeah, Golden Fool, book 2. I always love me some Robin Hobb, and that is the Tawny Man trilogy. Let's drink some coffee. All right. I will also be continuing my Dresden Files read with Jim Butcher's Blood Rights. I'm enjoying the Dresden Files. I hear that I'm about to go through a period of books that are just kind of like okay. They're still good, but that not until Changes, which I think is like book 12 or 10, something like that, does it really explode. So these are good. I've really enjoyed the last couple, and each book, and people have told me this is going to happen, I've read of this, I've enjoyed the series overall much better. And I do think the character of Harry Dresden is really maturing from his earlier days. Not completely, but I think he's definitely getting there, so that's exciting. Another series I'm continuing, Anne of Green Gables. Like, you can tell from this big, fat stack of fantasy, it's good sometimes to just have a nice little quiet time with one of my favorite characters ever, Anne. Anne's House of Dreams, which is book 5 in the series, and I think this is where she finally gets like her own home and sets up her affairs with her husband. I won't spoil who that is. I guess it says on the back. Most people know. But anyway, I'm excited to get to this. Windy Poplar's the last one, was kind of my least favorite. It felt like a lot of recycled storylines, so I'm excited that this has like a new setting and a new placeholder, like that she has to set up this home. It's different. All right, another thing I'm very excited about. I got approved to get the arc of Fiends of Nymeria, which is the newest Boshelin and Corval Broach short story. Now, this is a little confusing because it's already been released in the second volume of the shorter story collection of Boshelin and Corval Broach, so it is available out there, but that, as far as I can tell, is out of print. And so this new release, I think, is March 16th. And so before then, I'm going to try to read all of the Botchlet and Corball Broach short stories, which I haven't read before. So you can already see I'm through 2 of them, Blood Follows and The Lees of Laughter's End, I believe, and then Healthy Dead, and then The Worms of Blairmouth. What's the other one? The other one I have on Kindle that I can't quite remember the name of, and then I'll read Fiends of Nymeria. So I have been having a blast so far with these. I don't know why these aren't talked about more in the Malazan community. Like, they're really good. Fun time, a little bit of horror, a little bit of comedy, but also it does build out the world quite a bit. So I'm excited to read those. I'll probably read these all first week of March. As I said, I've already done quite a bit. Speaking of already having done quite a bit, I actually, as I record this on March 2nd, I've already finished my first book in March, which is this short little novella by P. Djeli Clark called The Black God's Drums. It is a sort of alternate history fantasy take on New Orleans of the late 18th century, or a late 19th century. It is a blast. I loved everything about this. I love the character. I love the African gods, or the old gods as they're said, that are mixed up in this. The magic is mysterious and so much fun. The world and how like the geopolitics works itself out. The city of New Orleans, how it's really a character. I'm gonna do a whole review on this because I loved it so much. And in fact, I have literally, after I did this, I went and bought every single thing that P. Djeli Clark has written, and I bought it because I wanted him to get credit. I didn't even buy it used. And I got approved for the arc of his newest book, which is coming out in May. So you're going to see a lot more of this author on my channel. I just through the roof. I think this guy's tremendous. Loved his writing style, and his acknowledgement in the back was awesome as well. Speaking of arcs, I'm so excited about this. My first physical arc that I went to Orbit, asked them hat in hand, and they said, absolutely, we'll send you a copy of Shadow of the Gods. This is John Gwynn's newest, book 1 in his newest, I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy, but series in his world, which I think is called The Blasted Lands or something like that. I have never read John Gwynn, so I think this is going to be a very unique perspective I have on this when I do my review on it, because so many people love Fate of the Fallen, or his other series of Blood and Bone or something like that. Sorry, forgetting the name of it. But people really love John Gwynn, and they come to this so excited. But I am coming into this completely cold turkey on John Gwynn, but this is one of my favorite covers in years in fantasy. It's just gorgeous. I love Orbit as a publisher, and so I'm so excited to get this started. The rest of my reading in March, let's be honest, I mean, thick book. Tad Williams is thick. Golden Fool is thick. Like, Luck in the Shadows isn't thick, but it's not short. Most of my reading is probably just going to be chucked up there. But also, I'm going to be listening to some audiobooks as well. I might do Anne on audiobooks, but those are going to be finishing up the Witcher series. Those of you who have followed my reviews there know that I loved the beginning, The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny, and then really since then, for me, the series has sort of slowly gone down and lost the plot, so to speak, of what it's trying to do. That's kind of how I felt in each book, even ones that are a little better, like Baptism of Fire, and the worst one, in my thoughts, A Time of Contempt. All of them sort of lack that connective tissue. And obviously, I'm a fan of postmodernism, so I don't mean that like there's not one singular plot. I mean like the theming and the character work is just not consistent to me in the series. So that's my opinion on that. But I'm going to be finishing that. So that is Tower of Swallow, or The Tower of the Swallow, and Lady of the Lake. Probably not going to read the new short story collections. Maybe we'll see how I feel, but I'll probably wait down the line for that. I forget the name of that one. So that is what I'm listening on audio. Oh, and then of course, book 7 of The Expanse I'm actually listening to right now, which is called Persepolis Rising. So good. I love The Expanse, and I'm so excited for that to finish out later in the year. Also this month we are continuing, of course, the year of the short classic, and this month it is actually a short classic. Those of you who've been paying attention remember I messed up with The Iliad being in February, which is not a very short book. But the live show for that was great with the Library of Alexandria. It's still available if you look under my live videos. Even if you haven't read the Iliad, I think it's a great and really informative video, so I would recommend you check that out. This month we are going into Jane Austen and reading Northanger Abbey, which I believe was her first published work. And very interestingly, it is a satire of Gothic fiction, which is going to be interesting because I don't have a super deep knowledge of Gothic fiction, or I haven't read a whole ton. I mean, I have Frankenstein and Dracula, sort of the classics, down, but not a lot outside of that, unless you consider Oscar Wilde Gothic, which some people do, some people don't. But I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited to announce our guest host, who will be none other than one of the queens of BookTube, Murphy Napier, who you guys, you know who she is, but you also probably know she's a huge Jane Austen fan. I think has read all of her work and Northanger Abbey a couple of times. She's really excited to be involved this month with our Year of Short Classics. We will have our live show the last day of March, so you have all of March to get in Northanger Abbey. March 31st at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time is when we'll be doing that live show, and you should turn in. It's going to be a great time. So that is my TBR. However, my good friend over at the Literature Science Alliance, Angela, had this awesome idea, since it is March, where there could be some madness, who knows. She decided to do a fun bracket challenge for her book reading in March, where it's pretty simple. She just made a bunch of brackets and saved the template, and booktubers or just readers can put their books into the bracket and then guess, you know, who's going to win, which books they'll like best throughout the month, and then at the end of the month see how you do, and put hashtag MarchBOTB, bracket of the books. I'll have Angela's channel linked in the description below, as well as the Google Drive that has those brackets if you want to do them themselves. And please share them with me on Instagram or YouTube or my Discord channel, because I think that'll be fun. But I wanted to show you guys my bracket with my TBR that I just showed you. Now, I kept it pretty simple. Basically, I just went and listed out 8 books on a list randomizer and then clicked randomize, and that's how the ordering is. So I didn't try to like rank them or anything like that, because I thought that would be a little too hard and I would weigh things. I didn't want to think that strongly about it. So this is the bracket that came out. Show you, it's pretty interesting. We have Blood Rights and Corball Brooch in the first round, then Black God's Drums up against Shadow of the Gods, John Gwynne's book. We have Luck in the Shadows and Northanger Abbey against each other, and then at the top we have War of the Flowers, the Tad Williams book, against Anne's House of Dreams. Now, I made a prediction bracket as well. Here, I'll show you that, because I think that's kind of fun, and just go over why I chose what I did. By the way, I didn't include, you'll notice, Golden Fool, which is obviously Robin Hobbs. Because if I'm not going to finish a book, it's going to be this one, just because these other ones are all like group reads or read-alongs, so I need to get to them first. And it's Robin Hobb, one of my favorite authors, so I think it'd be less interesting because she would probably for sure win. So here is my predictions. You can see up here, I think Corball Brooch, I just love Stephen Erickson in the world of Malazan, and as much as I like Dresden, each of them are somewhat, forgettable is not the right word, but like, they don't, you can get rid of them or not, I don't know. Just, you know, it's a short, sort of fun tale, but I don't think it's going to beat something in the Malazan world. Down here on the bottom left is more interesting. Black God's Drums versus Shadow of the Gods, because John Gwynne, like I said, I'm going in real blind. But I think probably because it is like an actual chunky fantasy like I really like, it might just edge out just a little bit Black God's Drums. As I said, I love the Black God's Drums, but it's a short little novella. It does a lot in a short amount of time, but it just doesn't have the same amount of space. And so that's why I put that out there, even though I loved the Black God's Drums. Up here real quickly, same reason I put War of the Flowers up there, because it's just chunkier than Anne's House of Dreams. And here with Northanger Abbey, I like Jane Austen, but I'm just guessing, again, because it's fantasy and because I am excited about Lynn Llewellyn and what Chris has told me, I'm going to put Luck in the Shadows up above. And then really, I'm just relying on my love of Tad Williams to carry War of the Flowers into the final, because I just don't know much about Lynn Llewellyn's writing style. And then over here, this is going to be an upset. I thought a long time about this, because obviously I love Erikson, but these tales are smaller, and there's not a huge ton of meat on them. It's kind of like a fun romp, which I think is what Erikson wants. But if Shadow of the Gods is a great epic, and I've heard a lot of good things about John Gwynne, then I think I'm going to lean towards the epic, which means we have 2 epic fantasies in the finals in my predictions. And since I don't know much about John Gwynne, I'm going to go with the old favorite, Tad Williams. So I'm guessing War of the Flowers is going to be my favorite book of the month in March. At my wrap-up, I'll go over this and see how right I was or wrong, because I haven't read all these books yet, obviously. That's going to be my March. Pretty packed, very excited, and already finding some great authors that I love and new stuff that I love, and I'm just starting out. So very excited for March. Let me know what you're reading in the comments below. As I said, join my Discord. Also, I just released yesterday a new short story on my Patreon, so if you want to check out my fiction, that's available on Patreon as well as a bunch of other really cool stuff like behind the scenes stuff, vlogs, outtakes, that kind of thing. So check that out if you want to support me in the channel. As always, first in, last out.